Welcome to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room, an arts and culture podcast. I'm Dr. Andrew Rimby, the host and founder. Wherever you are listening, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, please do me a favor, make sure you're following the show and make sure that you rate and review us. It really means a lot, and it continues to allow me to get really exciting guests for the podcast and to continue delivering the podcast for free. Remember, though, we do have a Patreon, so if you don't want to listen to ads and you want to watch the video episodes of the podcast, patreon.com/Ivory Tower Boiler Room. Do you know that there is a book club? It's free and virtual. So easy to just join the book club in your pajamas on a Sunday afternoon. Our next book club is June 22nd at 5 p.m. We are reading Sophie Gilbert's Girl on Girl: How Pop Culture Turned a Generation of Women Against Themselves. She writes for The Atlantic. She is such an amazing pop culture expert. So if you've always wondered, wait, why did the paparazzi harass Britney Spears like that? Or did the Spice Girls really have a love-hate relationship with each other? You're going to want to read this book. So to join the book club, email ivorytowerboilerroom@gmail.com and I will give you the Zoom link, June 22nd, 5 p.m. Without further ado, and a brief message of thanks. Thank you to Mary DiPipi, the chief contributor, and Christian Garcia, who edits this podcast, and my fiance and parents, who continue delivering really creative ideas my way. And without further ado, here's today's episode. I'm so excited to share a conversation I had with author Rochelle Weinstein, which happened about, I would say, 2.5 years ago. So I was talking a lot to Rochelle over the past couple weeks because I just went to Miami for the first time with my fiance, and we had an amazing time. We keep talking about going back already. So you know that that's a good vacation when you want to be back in that environment immediately. Well, Rochelle just came out with a novel called We Are Made of Stars. Secrets, lies, and second chances are served up beneath the stars at a picturesque mountain getaway in this powerful novel about love and family. So I requested it from the library. I'm about to get it soon. I definitely am going to have Rochelle back on the podcast sometime in the near future. But in the meantime, I wanted you to hear such a fabulous conversation we had about her writing romance, realistic romance novels. And we talked a lot about her book, When We Let Go, which had come out when I interviewed her, but she's also written What You Do to Me, This Is Not How It Ends, Where We Fall, What We Leave Behind. You can find all of her work on RochelleWeinstein.com. And I'm so excited for you to hear just her passion for writing, how she came to writing after a career as an advertiser. She also wrote for many different publications, including the Miami Herald. So, really excited. It's such a nice conversation, and I'm happy to feature it again. So, without further ado, here is Rochelle Weinstein. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I am very pleased to be interviewing Rochelle Weinstein. I want to get that B in there because it's in her bio. She was born and raised in Miami, Florida. She moved north to attend the University of Maryland, earned a degree in journalism, began her career in Los Angeles at the LA Weekly. Then she moved back to Miami, enjoyed a stint in the entertainment industry, married her love of music with all things creative, and then she began to write, it says, When Your Twins Arrived, which is a very interesting moment to begin blossoming as a writer. And we are here today to discuss her recent novel, When We Let Go. So, hi, Rochelle. It is so nice to meet you.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you so much for having me here. And hello to everybody out there who's listening in.
Yes, yes. So I'm want to start with that. What was it about the birth of your twins that really began your writing career in creative writing?
That's a great question. So I was always a closeted writer. I had the journal going, the private musings, nothing for public consumption because God knows what I had to say was not worthwhile. And I'd worked since I was 14 years old, always. I was a latchkey kid and, I've always had jobs. So what was interesting was I was working for the Box Music Network, which was my kids always tell me it was much cooler than my current job. I worked with all the record labels all around the country on a network that I handled all their advertising and promotions. So the company was ultimately bought by MTV out of New York by Viacom. And they moved everybody up to New York. But my family, I'm in Miami. So my family was here. I had just had my twin boys. And, you know, you don't pick up and move your whole family away from the grandparents when you have twin boys. So I opted to stay in Miami. They gave me a year's severance, which is kind of unheard of these days. And I was like, okay, so what am I going to do with my life? And I know what everybody's saying out there. And well, you have twin boys. And I mean, they were infants and getting them on a schedule because I was crazy. And I got them on such a militant schedule. Like they were napping like 3 hours during the day, in the morning. And then, I just felt like I needed an outlet. Like I felt that I needed something for me. And being a mom, we will never diminish being a mom. It's one of the hardest jobs in the world and one of the most fulfilling. But having always worked my entire life, I just had this itch to scratch and I had a story to tell. And I literally sat down while they were napping. I would just do 3-hour blocks every day. And 110,000 words became my first novel, What We Leave Behind. I almost forgot the name. And that was in 2000, 2001 maybe. And I didn't do anything with that book. It didn't come out till 2012.
Okay. Well, and I think it's the best-selling novel, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to sell yourself short on it. Like
It,
Rochelle has been written about in the New York Times. I mean, this is yes. Well,
it was a
she's shaking
USA
her head.
Today best-selling book. That
Okay,
book.
well, I would take it. USA Today best-selling book. As long as you can say best-selling book anywhere,
You're
that is
kind.
good. But I'm kind of matching your, well, thank you for laying that out because I think it's so interesting to talk to someone who goes into creative writing and that process later, like when they're in another career. So it's not, say, just your side hustle
Mm-hmm.
as you're at a job and it's something that you now have fallen into. I mean, you did just say though, you're working still in music, or is it a different
No,
type of?
no.
Oh,
I'm not in
okay.
the music business at all. I wrote that first book as a lark. Didn't know what I was going to do with it. Sat under the bed, got it professionally edited. Let the carpool moms read it in their book club. They were like, "You need to get this published." Fast forward, I did self-publish, which is a whole other podcast for
Mm.
struggling writers. And yes, it ended up hitting the USA Today bestseller list. But I was talking to somebody today, as a matter of fact, another writer about, you know, she was like, "Well, I'm 51. Am I going to really start a career right now in writing?" And oh my God, writing is like one of the few things that we can do as women, as mature women,
Mm.
also at any stage in our lives. So I think it's such a blessing and such a gift to be able to have that ability in today's world, also.
Yeah, and I'm kind of matching your Miami vibes. I don't know. I like to think Miami is always all floral patterns of outfits, but
Oh my
um
God, you're right. That's very cute. You're in your floral. I'm in my
well,
pink.
there you go. I like it. Yeah, you're matching Rochelle is matching the cover of When We Let Go
Yes.
in a way. Yes, hold it up again. And something that I want to note is it's very rare, especially with all the different writers I have on. It's rare to have a Miami set novel in a way, especially when it's this very deep nuance of mourning, loss. Um, but it's interesting because When We Let Go isn't just a Miami narrative. It's actually someone who's a transplant into
Yeah.
Miami
Yeah.
from North Carolina. So I found this southern, I mean, Miami's in the South, but I kind of consider Miami this like Northeast transplant.
Miami's like the little stepsister of New York City, right? With
Yes, it
beaches.
is.
And
There's a
it's
lot of back and forth.
and Miami's gotten so sophisticated and so there's this European influence and South Americans are here and it's this eclectic, it's very vibrant right now, I will say. I kind of love it and I kind of hated it. I kind of liked when it was like this little quiet little beachy town, but there are benefits to all of that. And to your point about writing in Miami, I write what I know
Mhm.
and I get a feeling from a place. So When We Let Go is set in the very beginning at Vizcaya, which is in Miami. And you don't even feel like you're in Miami when you're at Vizcaya. You feel like you're like in some like Italian gorgeous like villa. And then also North Carolina holds a very, very special place in my heart. I spend a lot of summers there since I was like 4 years old. So I get a sense of place and I feel something, and I have to feel something for it to take root and to grow into a story.
Yeah. And well, like you said, writing from what you know is, I
Yeah.
think, step one of your surroundings and how they influence you. Like, I mean, I've been on Long Island now 9 years, and it definitely has shaped, you know, the beach lifestyle that I have and all these different interactions. But I grew up in New Jersey, so it's not like too drastic
Oh, I was
of
gonna
a
say, where were
culture.
you before Long Island? And you're like, okay, New Jersey, that's the same.
Yeah, I grew up in South Jersey by Philadelphia,
Okay.
kind of close to Cherry Hill,
Okay.
which is like, I think it's South Jersey. It's the well-known area. But yeah, what I really love is even when you describe Vizcaya, which I think is a mansion, right? With gardens.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So almost like an arboretum, I guess we would say here on Long Island. We have the Gilded Age mansions. Um, so I remember that right away we get your protagonist, Avery, is kind of reflecting a lot in Vizcaya about all these different themes. So I know your novel's called When We Let Go, but for some reason I've kind of said When We Let Go, a reflection on mourning, loss and love is like the subtitle in my head. Um, and I just want to know, like, why are these themes, how did they come to you? Like, how did you know this was going to be a reflection on loss
I
at the
feel like
heart?
I feel like a lot of my books have that emotional depth to them, those
Mm,
layers that come from loss, not necessarily death, but grieving something in your life.
mhm,
We're all, that's such a relatable topic. Um, and again, writing what we know, I've experienced my share of pain and disappointment and loss in my own life from, you know, not really having a father in the house when I was growing up. So what that felt like as a child,
mm,
to losing the physical and emotional presence of my mother as an adult. So I've experienced different kinds of grieving, people and relationships. And you love. I just feel like I am a little bit of a love junkie. I feel that everybody processes love and grief so differently. And I just love understanding the why, the motivation behind
mm,
it. Um, and I just feel like there's so much we can learn from how people experience love and grief. And that's something, those are the themes that I like to touch on in my novels, because I always feel like there's these little hidden gems things that I've learned that have helped me grow
mm,
that I want to share with my readers. My mom was a teacher and she died 10 years ago. And I feel like that the teacher in her lives inside of me, that my novels entertain, I hope, but I also want readers to walk away having learned something about themselves or seen themselves, and to be able to handle love, relationships, family, grief in maybe a different way. And I've gotten that feedback from readers,
mm.
and that to me is everything, worth more than any bestseller list.
Yes, yes, yes. Reader response. It's the way I feel about those who listen right now out there, listeners out there, that's a Whitman poetry quote, but that hearing how they're relating to your work is so nothing can nothing can top that, right? I mean, that's why you put out art, is for it to be received and responded to emotionally. And like, even when I'm reading When We Let Go, and I was saying to Rochelle, I'm listening to it too, which is really interesting with all these dialects of North Carolina. And then um like the performer actually really digs deep into that. And what I think though about what you said, I kind of have seen your genre, and maybe you don't see it this way, which, I hope this doesn't offend you. Um, but it's this beautiful realism meets romance, almost like a meditation, just a
Why,
meditation on life.
why would that offend? That is like
Well, I don't know.
it's
Sometimes when you say
beautiful. Say that
romance,
again. That was what did you call it? You called it
well, it's like
romantic
I would call
realism.
it, yeah, I think
Romantic
it's romantic
realism.
realism.
Okay, so one of the things that I really try my hardest to do in carving out any stories, and
I was recently watching Return to Oz and Nosferatu with my fiance, and I thought, wait, I just had on Broadview Press authors who wrote a vampire literature anthology and the iconic edition of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. So I said to my fiance, you know what? I need to tell everyone who's listening to ITBR that BroadviewPress.com has everything from classic novels to discussions about vampire literature, vampires in film and TV, the philosophy of sports, Native American culture, horror. There is so much on Broadview Press's website. I urge you all right now, search broadviewpress.com. You will see that not only do they have books for college instructors, which if you do teach college, you better add them to your list because it's amazing, all the resources they have. But if you have just wandered around a bookstore or a library and thought, everyone always told me to read Moby Dick, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to fully understand it. Broadviewpress.com has you covered because they have amazing notes and sources to help you dissect that huge whale of a tale. See what I did there? I was just watching the Page Master, so there's a little Moby Dick reference. Head to broadviewpress.com, use the exclusive code they gave us, Ivory Tower, 20% off your entire order. Yes, your entire order. Enjoy your reading, and please reach out to me and let me know what you're reading from Broadview Press. I would love to share it on social media.
real life, to be honest, is to be authentic and to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like because of my journal writing all those years and the musing and the like the free association but on paper type of thinking, I feel like when I'm writing, I'm really digging from my gut. Like it's almost like I'm writing in my journal, but I'm writing this journal story. And it's very real to me. Like I literally step into these characters, and even if I haven't experienced a feeling like that, I've seen somebody I've loved experience a feeling like that. And I don't know how, I don't know why. I just know how to capture and dig deep into those feelings. It just comes easily to me. I can't write historical fiction. I can't, I'm not the most succinct writer. Sometimes there's a little bit of superfluous language because I'm like very expressive, but I just feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm like that a medium that it comes through me and it comes out on the page. I don't know. Weird.
Well, that's actually I think that's the preferable method, that you're not overcome by how is it going to happen on the page. But I'm sure you also have your doubt. Like I feel like all writers, we have the moment of how is this even going to happen? Like the planning stage. But then there's always so much surprise, right? When you're
Oh
actually
yeah.
digging deep into the characters.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've done podcasts where it's the question comes up, are you a plotter, are you a pantser? And
Yes.
it's one of the funniest questions because it's ubiquitous. It's all over. But it's an interesting question, but most writers will tell you whether they're a plotter or a pantser. I am a pantser. The one time I plotted, I had the same end result. My characters, they take me in certain directions. Like I get a feeling from them. They fight me in my head. They're like, no, 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 that's not what I want to do. Your characters lead you on this journey, really.
Yeah, yeah. And just for everyone out there, pantsing is just like you don't have any
No outline.
No
Right.
outline. You're kind of just seeing the characters as they come to you, like you said,
Right.
Rochelle. And
It's
I think when
flying by the
yeah,
seat of your pants. That's what it is.
yes,
It's
flying by
literally
the seat
just
of your pants. I like
right.
that. Being spontaneous.
Right.
But you're right. I think even if that's the thing is when I write academic scholarship, like I have a whole outline, but once I'm deep into the analysis, it's not following exactly every bullet point. Like it can't, because if I follow every bullet point, I've held myself to this strict interpretation,
Yeah,
which isn't the enjoyable part for me is the organic nature of writing. That's
sure.
what why I love poetry as a genre, especially too, is it's not complete. Like there's always it's a snapshot. And I
Right.
feel like in your novel, it is very poetic. And I think when I said I don't want to offend, it's more that I know sometimes when you get grouped as a romance writer, and I don't believe this, but
Right.
there's almost there's not that depth or the nuance. But I feel like romance as a genre is so full of philosophical questions because I would say almost every novel has an aspect of romance. Like,
Do you you
yeah.
do, but I hope your listeners out there know that also the romance genre right now. I'm not romance. I'm not like really typecast into romance. I'm more women's like emotional fiction, whatnot. And yes, I always have some form of a romance in my book, but rom-coms, they are taking off like nothing right now. I mean,
Mhm.
every bestseller list is like a rom-com, or and people are reading those books. They're feel good books in a world that's a little bit crazy right now. They
Yeah.
are feel good go-to books.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch The Handmaid's Tale
Yeah.
a lot a few years ago, and then now I'm
Right.
like reality TV, rom-coms. I just saw Bros. I'm a huge Real Housewives fan just
Oh, you're
because
so
you're
cute.
right. Yeah. Well, and I like heaviness in work, but like when I'm just relaxing after my mind whirling and
Right.
buzzing all day, do I really now want to watch The Handmaid's Tale in this
Okay, so
dystopian
go watch
world?
Bad Sisters. Bad
Okay, Bad
Sisters is
Sisters.
so mindless fun that
I like it.
that's that I don't watch a lot of TV anymore because now I'm just reading all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why, like, if I choose a show, I really need to love, not even just love, but it has to
Mhm.
be so that entertainment value. Like I even
Yeah,
watch Abbott
sure.
Elementary, which I think is hilarious, and Cheryl Lee Ralph. I don't know. Well, there's so much the feel good shows, but I'm so glad you said that though, Rochelle, about romance because well, even Bridgerton, look at that
Oh, I
book
loved
series. These
Bridgerton.
right period romances have made a comeback. It's even why I think people love, say, horror romance, like
Right,
Interview
right,
with the
right,
Vampire.
right.
But something in your novel that I want everyone out there to know is just how beautifully you craft. Well, so Avery has lost her mother, we know at the beginning. And then we find out about this fire and this tragedy that happens with Avery. And I don't want to like reveal it all because I want your readers. Yes,
Right, right,
she's
right,
shaking her head. She's like,
right.
don't say it all. But I think I can safely say, just as one of your readers, it was so interesting how much in doubt I was about her first husband, like whether I actually knew if he was alive or not. Um, like you really craft this
Oliver.
suspense. Oliver,
Yeah.
yes. So Oliver is part of this fire tragedy, but it's almost it takes a while, and I'm sure there's a reason. I know there's a reason behind why Oliver doesn't really come up in Avery's thoughts in
Right,
full sentences. It's just these
right.
real snapshots, glimpses, not processing even where he is now. Is he there? I was just questioning, who is Oliver? Where is he? And but that way of just thinking about how grief, even if someone is dead or not, that you really can't fully grasp the gravity of a situation, I thought was one of the best portrayals I've seen of loss
Oh,
in
thank
all of its aspects.
you.
So I want to
You
thank you
just gave
for
me
what you did.
goosebumps. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
But
Thank
it
you.
is. And how do you readers of When We Let Go respond to you, especially about the tragedy of the fire and like how that ripples and carries through with Avery?
So a lot of my author friends don't know how that I do this, but I don't read reviews. My husband reads every review. If there's anything that I need to know, because sometimes reviews are good constructive criticism, and if you're seeing the same thing over and over again in reviews, it's something to definitely look at or consider. But I have received through my newsletter, emails on my website. I have had a couple generous writers who have reached out to me to tell me exactly what I set out to do, that they were dealing with the loss of somebody and it significant in their life, and reading this book was so healing for them, and it made them see a situation differently, and the power of somebody you lost always with you. Like when we started this podcast, do you remember when we started this podcast, like Andrew had like a fire alarm go off, and I was like, did you lose somebody recently? Because somebody's trying to talk to you. Like lights flicker in my head. I'm not like a spooky, weird person, but my mom died, and I believe that she comes to me in butterflies. And if the lights flicker, I'm like, my mom's trying to tell me something. And you know what? It sounds like hokey, but it's my way of grieving and healing and feeling her presence around me. And those are the types of things in my novels that I try to impart to readers, and they share that with me, and it's just one of the most gratifying emails an author will ever receive. And I'm friends with a lot, like my last book, This Is Not How It Ends, had a tremendous amount of loss. And one woman who was widowed emailed me, and we are still friends. We email each other. We are social media buddies. Like when she posts a picture of her husband, like I know the story. And that's so incredible. Not the 5-star reviews, not the 1-star reviews, not having that connection with another human being is really what it's all about.
Well, and there's so much connection about love, like whether it's in your novel When We Let Go, about first love, like with Elle, who's this kind of how shall we call her?
She's a nightmare.
Yeah. I was gonna say like beats to her own drum in a counterculture way.
She's a brat. I'm not afraid of the reviews that tell me that what my husband tells me, that she's a brat, and I would have like slapped her a long time ago. But you know what? I think about sometimes what I was like as a child and what I put my mother through. And, I didn't feel loved, and I was angry, and that I was angry that my dad left, and I had these enormous feelings and I had nowhere to put them. So she was hostile.
Yeah. But I love,
it's not excusing the behavior, but
yeah. Well, and I think it's so fascinating how she enters your picture, enters Avery's, scene, which is really that it's from Avery's ex, who they may or may not come back together because Jude is the man's name, who proposes to Avery, and then we're kind of left. She's walking this tightrope about what to do next. And I found it so interesting, though, that Elle is so close to her. Even though Jude isn't in the picture physically with her right then and there, that she really gets to bond with his daughter. And I found that was a really interesting relationship that you don't see a lot ever depicted, which is just a child of someone who it's not like Avery owes Jude to take Elle under her wing. So I kind of wondered how did that bond between them really develop with you as a writer? Like, you
That
knowing this
was,
is where it has to go. Yeah.
I love the whole enemies to friends.
Mhm.
It's you know, I think I love that whole dynamic of watching, stories have arcs. I loved watching the arc of these two broken women. Avery had lost her mother, and there was the fire tragedy. So there was more loss in her life. And Elle lost her mother too. So
Mhm.
you had two broken women, and Avery and Jude were dating for like, I think, I don't even remember. It was like a year or two, I think. So she definitely, so Avery was in her life. And I think these two women, when they were, first of all, being in North Carolina together, I do believe that nature is this grounding influence. So number one, I think there was some bit of setting that really pushed them together. But also, they were like mirrors of each other. They were both hurt, they were both broken, and they saw so much of each other, so much of themselves in
Mm.
each other. So that, when you see somebody, it's like you're most critical of those, you're most critical of others in what you're most critical of in yourself. So I feel
Yeah.
that there was all this angst between these two because they were so broken and so um but I feel like that they were a mirror to each other, and we watched them like peel down the layers of this thick onion and discover that they were both going through the same types of hurt and healing, and how ultimately they could heal each other. Elle was
Yeah.
looking for a mom figure, and Avery, it's not a secret that she lost a child, and this was somebody that she wanted to prove herself and prove her worth with, and their hurt bound them, their
Mhm, mhm.
losses.
I like that aspect though of the mystery of, like, you've even explained with Avery and Elle, just that bond that they share together. And it kind of reminds me of what we think about with fairy tales. And maybe this gets back to this idea of the romance, which is as a genre, that fairy tales usually they're seen as having just the happy ending aspect and the marriage or a proposal, the love between this very straight male female dynamic that happens. But at the heart of a fairy tale, or not even at the heart, at the start of a fairy tale, is always lost, is usually the parents' loss. And then how is the child going to move forward and create their own path, right? And like whether it be Cinderella, Rapunzel, I mean, name any, Snow White, it's always that loss of a parent and then how they become women. And I mean, for them, usually it's through marriage. But what I find so fascinating is you have kind of crafted a fairy tale that's, though between women. And I find this so interesting because it doesn't take that usual journey of, okay, Avery needs to marry to find fulfillment. And I'm sure you've thought a lot about that aspect. So, how does that resonate about really knowing Avery needed to find herself without a male influence?
And I think that also harkens back to this relationship that she had with Elle, and accepting, being able to accept faults in others and being able to accept faults in oneself. We fight with these, she fought with Avery so much in the relationship, but she saw so much of herself, and then they reached this point where they were both more accepting. That's the piece you're talking about, is that self-accepting piece and the forgiveness.
Summer's almost here, and as a lover of literature, bookstores, libraries, the constant question I get is, Andrew, what book should I add to my summer reading list and read at the beach this summer? And I just always had a problem trying to tell people what to read. But guess what? No more. I have a magazine that has become my best friend. It is the G&LR, the Gay and Lesbian Review, a bi-monthly magazine of all things LGBTQ arts and culture. Their current issue is called The First Homosexuals, and it is guest edited by Dr. Jonathan D. Katz, who is a professor at the University of Penn. He was the founding president of New York's Leslie Lohman Museum of Gay and Lesbian Art, which, if you've never been there, is a free museum. So definitely go there. It's in Soho and it's amazing. Back to the GNLR. This new edition is so exciting to read. It looks at how the term homosexuality is an invented term. It was invented by medical scientists in the late Victorian period. So I can't wait to read all of these articles, but there's articles talking about homosexuality in Japan, Russia, Canada, Paris, India, Argentina. And Jonathan D. Katz talks about his exhibition called The First Homosexuals, now on display in Chicago's Wrightwood Museum from May 2nd to July 26th. But I can't get to Chicago this summer, so I'm so happy that I get to look through the magazine and see all of the articles that Jonathan has put together with contributing writers. I'm interviewing Jonathan soon, so look out for that episode, everyone. The GNLR has given me an exclusive promo code. Write it down, everyone. It's ITBR Choice, and you get a free issue with your subscription. So, glreview.org, go to the subscribe section, ITBR Choice, you get a free issue, and I can't wait for you all to enjoy the GNLR as much as I do. Please let me know if you're reading the GNLR, and until next time when I have Jonathan D. Katz on.
And I loved the scene in the woods where they spent the night. It was that survival of the fittest, that, you know, the survival of them in the woods, and how it was really Elle who changed Avery's trajectory on what happened in the forest. And she was the one who gave her that push that she needed. And I just loved all the psychological layers of that alliance. I feel that it was just very, like you said, it was a fairy tale, and I strive to hit that note. It was very satisfying. They were as much a love story as her and Jude.
Well, and just because it's something that would be daunting to me, just because you're actually you're one of the rare, even though I know I've had a few other authors on who have male-female dynamics. So I usually interview LGBTQ authors. So it's really interesting me for the relationship dynamic that you create with Avery and with Jude, and even with Elle and her first, serious relationship, we'll say. That something that seems daunting is how you create that even just sexual tension or romance between men and women without falling into these tropes of, like, okay, the man is going to become the protector, or like patriarchal ideas. So how do you process that? Is it, again, something from your own experience that just launches how that arc?
Interesting question. I don't think I've ever really thought about that. So it must come from just my own experiences. I have gotten some feedback about, like some of my other books where, she needed a man to make her feel good or whatnot. But, I have to say, and you nailed it. Like, I do believe in the fairy tale, whether it's male, women, female, male. I just like the whole fairy tale dynamic, and I don't mean to offend anybody when I do that, and I don't mean to make a strong woman look weak and only complete without a man. To me, it's more like the emotional journey and I try to show the woman's emotional journey and her growth to self-acceptance, and then what she wants to do with that, she wants to do with that. So I don't know. I am a little old-fashioned that way. I thought this question was going to go a different way, like about, I thought you were going to say, well, how do you do like sex scenes and then
Oh.
stop or whatever? And I'm like, well, because my publishing house has told me that it's the kind of thing where they start kissing and then you pan to the window.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you
I
want
was
to talk
like,
about sex scenes, you can
oh,
go
I love
go
writing
for
sex
it.
scenes.
But
I love writing sex scenes. I'd like to have, and my friend, and I'm going to name her Wendy Kingsley. She wants more sex scenes in my books. I would love more sex scenes, more juicy sex scenes, but there's that fine line between romance slash women's fiction romance.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do write juicy, like angsty, tension filled. You're gonna like
Yeah,
me.
and you do such a your new book. Okay, well, I'll talk about that real quick. But yeah, and you do such a good job. Like as a, you're one of your gay readers. I started the Rochelle Gay Reader fan club. Um, no, but you have such a
But
really exciting way of showing eroticism and the layers of desire and just how, I don't have to be interested in like finding a woman to be interested in your sex. I won't even call them sex scenes. In
this
just, yeah, they're just the layers of human desire. And you really
exactly. They're
create
basically
that.
words. They're words that could be applied to male or female. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just arrange them in the right order and the right pacing, and it's hot and it's sexy and it doesn't matter who's doing it.
Yeah. Well, and something that even just, I think that captivates and tantalizes me more in When We Let Go, that I'm sure others have responded to, is not even whether Avery is going to end up with Jude or whether there's going to be marriage. To me, it's not the marriage that's so fascinating. And it's what you do so well in When We Let Go, which is because it's not a genre that I typically read. So I was so excited to discover your work,
How
Rochelle. I'm
did
like,
you
oh,
find me? This is so funny.
well, I think it's probably through Josh Savera, who has like
Okay.
connected me to
Oh
so
my
many.
God,
Yeah.
Josh.
Mhm. Yeah, I think what I know Josh is so looks for in a genre is what I look for in a genre, which is just that depth of the human experience. And that's
Right.
something in When We Let Go. Like whether or not Avery gets that spark of love isn't as fascinating to me than just why is she um how she reflects on Jude's impact in her life and how she can't let him go. Like there's these moments of, I think we have all experienced with love, that you could just be making an omelet and then all of a sudden that thought of someone in your past
Right.
comes into your mind. And now you're thinking about the dates you went on together, the laughter you had. And then you realize, but wait, there's something that ended this. Like that's why I'm not next to this
So
person.
So what it sounds like you're saying is that it's that universal feeling and it's relatable
It is
regardless
very
of
relatable.
how it ends up. And um I don't want to pat myself on the back, but that's what every author strives for, to have that relatability across genres, across identity, sexuality, whatever it is, however it ends, to have something that really speaks to you.
Yes. And right, of course, there's that reader relatability about your identity. And if it speaks directly to your identity, right? Like when if I read a um gay love story, like, or even just Call Me by Your Name, it registers differently
Right.
just because I can directly try to put myself in the narrative. But I love that also aspect of reflecting on, okay, well, this isn't necessarily my identity, but
Right.
like you said, this is the universal theme of love. And how has this affected me? You ask a lot of meditative questions in a process like that. And then, like you said, that's what you want as a writer. So you mentioned that you are working on a new book, and I will really like it because of the themes we've discussed here. So, what are you working on, Rochelle, that we can expect from
So,
you?
okay, well, my pub date just changed from May of 23 to October of 23.
Ooh,
I
okay.
just view that as we're just going to make it that much better.
Yeah.
It's right now the working title is What You Do to Me. It's dual timeline, and it is the story of Cecilia James. She was named after Cecilia from Simon and Garfunkel, and she works for Rolling Stone magazine, and she is on the hunt for the muse behind one of like these famous love songs. This is 1996.
Oh, wow.
And and then in 1970 in the dual timeline you read the story of this Spanish boy and this Jewish girl, and it's a forbidden love, and how
Oh,
their
wow.
story unfolds, and she's the muse for this song, and why they're not together and why they parted. And there's themes of loss, there's themes of second chances, there's the it's all, and there's music, and there's it's Rolling Stone, and it's cool, and it's hip, and it's the 70s and it's the 90s, so I think it's like a mishmash of really cool stuff.
Oh, wow. Well, you are going to absolutely love a friend of the show who, well, when this has come out, everyone should listen. We had recapped the Marilyn Monroe
Oh,
film, Blonde, because Elizabeth Winder is wrote a Monroe biography. But now she actually, in the summer, so a few months, I think it's July, before your book comes out, Rochelle, Rolling Stones must be in everyone's mind. I love it, in the psyche, the zeitgeist, because she actually wrote Parachute Women, which is going to be about Marianne Faithfull, Marsha Hunt, Bianca Jagger, and Anita Pallenberg.
I'm writing this
And
down.
yeah,
Parachute
Parachute
Woman.
Women. Hmm. And it's a biography about the women who curated the Rolling Stones image, like the women in their
Oh
lives.
wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Jan Wenner just came out with his new book, the Rolling Stone book, so that's a
there
lot of
must be an
Rolling Stone.
anniversary. Is there
Yeah.
an Okay. Okay. Something's happening in the Rolling Stone universe.
Yes.
But well, I can't wait, Rochelle. I love a dual narrative. I like this dual timeline. I think that is so fascinating. I like that you're going to your music industry roots. So yeah, I can't wait for this. So October, we'll have to have you back on.
I would love
Um,
it.
we're gonna have some Rolling Stones love here in the Ivory Tower Boiler Room. I like it. I have to like catch up on the playlist. Um, but yeah, I just want to really thank you for just your words, the themes that you really delve into, because it's not, I think it's easy. Okay, I shouldn't say easy. No writing job is easy, but I find that like going into mysteries, which I love, and horror or thrillers or I love all genres. Um or even historical fiction, I find that you've kind of created, or fantasy even. We've had Gregory Maguire here on about Wicked and his universe.
Mhm.
That it's so exciting when you create a new universe in a way. Like you become distanced as the writer in a different
Sure,
way.
sure.
But I think when you write realist fiction, and especially when it deals with loss and love and romance, there's so much of yourself in a way in that, of your own experience,
Hmm.
that it almost starts to border memoir in a way. And
Oh yeah.
um yeah, so I thank you for really putting that on the page, because I think it's a different psychological experience as a writer than when you're distant, like when you can create a different universe that is out of time. Like you know that it probably, even like a girl on the train, this isn't
Right,
something
right,
we
right, right.
hopefully want to see. Um, and you can have that disbelief as a writer when you're
Right.
suspending it that way. So yeah, thank you for getting to the
Thank
heart of it
you.
all.
Thank you for
Yeah.
reading. And thank you for
Yes.
having me.
Yes. Well, and everyone out there, please get When We Let Go. Um, I have the links to it in our show notes. I also have the Audible link if you're also like me, an Audible. Yeah, I've trained my mind to listen to audiobooks when I'm showering, cooking, doing emails. It's like it's
Same.
just the noise I need. I love having narratives in the background. But Rochelle's books are, you know, don't just only do When We Let Go. go down the deep dive into Rochelle's catalog, and
Yes.
then we will have you back on. I can't
Perfect.
wait for your new
Sounds
book.
great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Andrew, this was
Yes.
so much fun, and thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Well, and say hi to Miami for me. I need
We're
to like,
welcoming you. We're
I
welcoming
know,
you.
I can feel it. I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to like do something I need to see what's in their libraries. I will
Okay.
find a reason.
We'll figure out a way.